And I would just encourage people to get involved. Do not feel like, because there was times, and I hear you, you talk about, blended families and stuff. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I went through this divorce and, and you feel like the enemy's saying you're not good enough. You're not good enough to do this. You've done this, and and it took me a long time to realize, that's the enemy speaking.
Yeah.
And I am good enough. Now I hear God say, you are good enough. And you're mine.
I won't lose hope in the night when the fire's growing dim. I'll just let go and I'll try. Help me walk this road and find my way back home. Find my way back home. Find my way home.
Welcome back to the Famous and Known podcast. We're in a series called The People Who Shape Us. And just a few weeks ago, we had Christy's parents on. And now today, we have my parents here. Amazing. Welcome. And the cool part is they actually drove
all the
12
way.
hours without stops from Pennsylvania to Tennessee to be with us. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
You're in person.
It
So
does,
they were
like, we want to do it in person. And I know we're, like, pushing you guys big time to do this. And I just honor you. And I thank you for being willing. Because I know, you know me, I don't love the exposure either. And I know it's hard. And yet you see the fruit on the other side. And it matters. So I just thank you guys for, and it's being in person. This is, like, special. To not do it over, like, Zoom or something.
Right. Yeah.
So, but
I
thank
called
you guys.
Mom and she's like, no, we're not doing this on Zoom. We're doing it in person.
Yeah.
So they drove all the way down here. Today's conversation is going to be a lot of fun because, Christy started with the episode that we had with her parents by asking what it was like for her to be raised by them. And so I can't wait to hear how it's like to be, what it was like for me too. I'm going to start there. But the other interesting part about this conversation is we get to talk about blended families and what it was like growing up with a blended family. And there's many of you who are living in that, in a blended family as well today. And so I hope that this episode offers a lot of encouragement to you because the cool part is I get to talk about today how I was shaped growing up in a blended family. And there's a lot of beauty in it and there was a lot of goodness in it. And so I can't wait for that to come out today. But before we do jump into some of those things, I would love to know what it was like raising me. Go ahead, tell me all the good things. This is exactly how Chrissy started the episode with her parents.
I didn't know I wanted to hear it, but I was like, yeah, I do. Tell me everything
And then we
about
get
me.
partway through and she's like, I didn't mean for this to be like this. I was like, yes, you did.
I did. We all need a little pump up in our tires, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess I mean you were a great kid. You were not. I mean, I'm talking little. There was no going into a store and coming out in tears and having fights and none of that. And in your day growing up, we actually went to the stores. We actually went to the grocery store and got our groceries and put them in the cart. And
I remember.
It was fine, but it was, you were a good kid growing up, and
We did.
you were not a problem child at all.
We did a lot of field trips together. Mom was the one who was always the chaperone parent signing up for field trips. So every field trip we went on, you were there with me.
Yes, the whole way through grade school.
But even talk about that a little bit because like that was a really, Mom, you worked hard. You worked full time.
I did.
And Pap, who is in heaven, so Josh's dad passed away. Gosh, what's it been now?
9 years.
9
this
years.
year.
I was going to say
8.5 years.
9, yeah, almost 9 years.
Yep.
You both were working full time. And so like, let's even talk to the parents like who are in that boat where you worked, you shared like off shifts, right? So that someone was home with the kids. Didn't you work through the night? Like, didn't you work the night shift?
I worked night shift. And I did that when the kids were in grade school so that I could do things. I could be with them and be there through the day if they had field trips and special things going on. And yes, it was hard.
I can't.
You know,
like
I
you're
worked
literally
in a factory.
Yeah, working all night,
and then coming home
to
to 7 in the morning,
sleeping, and then having like wanting to be there for your kids.
And when they were, I'll go back a little bit. When they were a little bit younger, I actually worked 3 to 11 for a while. I worked the same factory for 39 years. So I mean, it was part of our lives, and
but it comes at a sacrifice.
it does.
Yeah,
It does, and unfortunately, you don't realize that until you get a little bit older. And
like, what was that like for you though? Like, cause I know mom to mom, right? Like that tension of like, you have to work, you want to be there with the kids, and then and the physical exhaustion of it. Like physically, your kids are living at a different like time of day even than you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're having to like babysitters. I remember you talking about like Josh would talk about his babysitters, after school and just having to actually pull in those people into their life too, to be there.
Well, one thing, we were incredibly blessed that we had Meemaw there for one thing. Meemaw played a big part.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was huge.
Yeah, we should talk about her.
And we had we had friends that had kids that would help out babysitting, and we had a lot of good people. We had a lot of friends that helped,
and neighbors.
I
think about that because I think about that. We don't have that same sense of community today. I don't know if screens are a major part of that or what, but it's like we actually had people in our town that
we did
that we would go to their house and we would play and we would have all kinds of memories. Next door neighbors, even. I mean,
yes,
that you knew your neighbors down the street, like literally this right next to you, and then in the house down, and then the next house down. It was like you always knew who was there, and you could be in and out as kids. It was like you just kind of went to each other's house.
Yeah.
Is what I remember.
And it was cool. It was I feel like you had a good childhood, the good growing up. I mean,
I did. I loved my childhood. I absolutely loved it. And then Pap. So this is Pap and Graham. So our kids call them Pap and Graham. And so I was probably 11, I think, when you came into our lives. I think I was 11 or 12. Yeah. No, I wasn't 12. I was probably about 11.
Yes, I would say 11.
Yeah. So what was I like when I came in to your world? How cool was I?
You were
with a mullet.
With a mullet.
Did he have a mullet at that time?
He did.
Yeah. Okay. I just to confirm.
I did.
That's been a subject from time to time. A memory.
The buck teeth.
Buck teeth and a mullet.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're so cute.
Yeah. Oh, I was adorable.
So Josh was very energetic, and a big sports fan, and I guess it was right around that time we started to. We live in small town America, rural area. And of course, there's lots of things to do like hunting and fishing. And I think those are the memories that I think about, that kind of shaped, when we started out together, because we would go camping to the river and fish. And I remember Josh learning to fish and out on the boat. I remember vacations we would go on. Like I remember the trip we went to Maine.
Yep. Oh, I remember that very well.
In the camper?
Yep.
I remember.
In
Camper.
the
Yeah.
I
old
was probably
truck
about
camper.
13 at that time.
Yeah.
12, 13.
Yeah.
What about Landon's age as he is now? Yep.
Yeah. So
Just wild.
those are the kind of things we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and it's fascinating too, and I was sharing this with you a bit earlier, is so I was 10 when my parents divorced, when you and Dad divorced, and then, now all of a sudden, we're in this blended family, and I can remember going, I don't want to disappoint anybody. And so I was like, I'll share weeks. We'll go every other week. And in that process, my dad, my biological dad, he was into sports and he loved sports. And that's what the phrase I always use is my dad was always in the stands. He knew the sports stuff. But when it came to the things that a dad teaches a son, when it comes to fishing, it comes shooting a gun, learning how to use a chainsaw, learning how to drive, learning how to spin donuts, driving manual, stick shift. I mean, you did all that for me. You were that dad in my life that did all of those things for me. And I look back on it and I'm like, there was even moments where you and me and my dad, my biological dad, like the three of us, I have a picture of the three of us at our wedding that I have it framed because I love that picture so much because it's like I had two dads. And so first of all, I want to thank you publicly for being that dad in my life. And I always prided myself on like this sense of if there's ever a way to do this healthy, you guys modeled that. And I would love for you to just share a little bit about, what that was like doing that and how that was just to encourage people. Because I know, Mom, we talked about this earlier. It was like, I think of Joseph, like what the enemy intends for evil, God wants to use it and turn it to good. And I have seen redemption after redemption after redemption in our story. And he continues to write redemption in our story, in our family lineage. And I would just love to share your perspective on some of that and kind of how you navigated that even in those days. Yeah.
We got along good, and your dad was he was a great dad. And I think the thing I would want to stress to folks out there is, everybody grows up in different families, and the emphasis is on different things and so on. And in your dad's case, he was really into sports, and that was a good thing for you. And that's a thing you enjoyed with your dad. Whereas my parents, we had cabins that we would go to, for periods of time. We were in the outdoors a lot, so I grew up more in, hunting, fishing, the atmosphere. So I think the thing that we need to do as people in a family situation like this is we need to work as a team and recognize that some of us have skills or benefits in one area, and the other side may have, in a different area.
Yeah.
So we have to just put down this idea of, we're the only one that has anything to offer, and work more as, like they say, a team player.
Yeah. Well, even, the other things you guys did is you prioritized us. So it wasn't like, you guys, you created adventure for us. You made sure you prioritized adventure for us. And so, and then, when I'm at my dad's, you're not undermining sports, or you're not undermining, it's like both sides were trying to do the best that you guys knew how to do to give us kids. You know, I talk about my sister and I and as well as your kids. And it's like, you did everything that you could to give us the best adventures and the best environment possible.
Right.
And that's what that's what I remember. I mean, that's why I say I had such an amazing childhood. Like I look back at my childhood and I'm like, man, I mean, I can think about filleting fish at the river, and I can think about camping out at the river. And, you know, the other cool part is literally tomorrow night after this, you know, we film this podcast, you and me and Landon and Micah are going on a grandfather, father, son camping trip, you know? So it's like, now it's extending
Doesn't
to the
that
next
feel
generation.
fitting?
You know?
My goodness. I
And
didn't
so
even
it's
think
like-
about that. Yeah.
It's like this, and it'll be 37 degrees tomorrow night. So
It's
it'll
okay.
be,
It's okay. We're
gonna
going to
create
get you
some
all
memories. We're
cozied
gonna
up.
create
Yeah.
memories with the other boys.
It's good. But like I keep hearing you talk, it's like, it's literally like the community. Like there is a community about raising children that is not just dependent upon two people. And in fact, when we put all that burden upon, you know, just a mom, just a dad, you're working, like that's what I keep hearing you say. Like there was more. There was this reliance on those around you that all got to pour in and shape your kids. And they turned out pretty great, I gotta say.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this one. He's just Jenna. Like it's just, there is such fruit, actually, even amongst, and I know it's hard, where it's been like, there's the hard of divorce, there's the hard of the splitting of a family, and then there's also this beautiful redemption of like, we wouldn't know him. You know, my kids wouldn't have Pap. I say that because, you know, losing Josh's dad, most of my kids' childhood, they haven't had a grandfather. You know, from biologically from him, they've had you, and you've taught Kennedy photography, and you've taught them, the boys, like so many things, like in the wood shop, in the like
Trains and
oh my gosh, making them all the big giant train sets in the basement, and like
and yesterday a bamboo forest fishing rod.
Oh, did you do
bamboo
that?
forest, a bamboo fishing rod
From the bamboo
forest.
So
They made fishing rods from the bamboo in the bamboo forest.
wow. Well, I just so for me, I honor you, and I'm so grateful, Pap, like to both you and Mom, how you have poured into our kids. Like these two are down for like whatever. Like the kids, like, what do you want to play? What game do you want to play? What do you want? You want to go get ice cream? Okay, every time, always good for that. But like you're so invested in them, and even though we obviously live at a distance, like. Well, and actually, we should speak to that a little bit too, about our adventure back in Pennsylvania, you know,
Yeah.
And a couple years ago, which I think people know that story, but when the Lord told us to sell the house and move, and we went back to Pennsylvania, and we moved into our little 900 square foot cabin, literally a mile down the road from you guys. Our little laneway is Josh's grandfather, so our kid's great grandfather is just down the laneway. So we're literally surrounded by family there. And we've never had that. We've never gotten to live near family. Mm-hmm. And obviously that comes with good. It comes with hard. It comes with, I think, the beauty of relationship. Like our kids got to be in your everyday lives. We get to be in your everyday lives. You got to be in our everyday lives. And
now that we have that, we also, I feel like we're in our lives, each other's lives even more. You guys
Right.
are here more. We're there more, even more than what we had been.
Right.
For some of the years where we were in the early trenches years with the kids, it was harder to get back.
Yeah.
We had to stay with you guys. Now that we have this little cabin we can stay at, it's like we get to do more life together.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
No,
off,
you
but it's
didn't cut me out. Like it's just like we have a home there too, and that feels so. Like going back to the community you guys talk about, like we get to be a part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
We get to be. We have roots there too. You know, and Josh always did, but now we do too, and the kids do too.
Kids have
And,
the memory. Yeah, they can start making the memory to be there. Yeah.
and I just, you know, it keeps coming back to me, this word redemption, because that's what that was for all of us, was like this little respite in the woods, you know, down the road. Mm-hmm. And we get to, you renovated the whole thing, Pap. I mean, it was in rough shape.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
even like the love that you poured into that for us, to give us a place to have a home
And we
there.
didn't even know that it was going to be a place for us to do that. Like we had
No.
no clue
No.
that that's what it was. I mean,
No.
and now it's used for your Bible study. It's used for for us to go
yeah,
back to
they have
and
a Bible
use.
study there every week.
It's really cool.
And
That-
it's
it-
so
yeah.
cute.
And honor to, Pat Snook, my grandfather, Landon, who our Landon's named after, for the vision for it and for our family to have it and to experience the things that we get to experience there with family get-togethers, to Bible studies, to whatever. It's just really neat to see how that has been able to be used for that. I just think, too, I want to talk about this, Mom, because, I go all the way back to your 40th birthday. I go, so you see where I'm going to start going here, and I want to be careful about some of the stories to protect, but also at the same time, just the journey that you and I have had through the years, because I feel like, you and I have had our, you look at the bell curve, it's like we're super close, and then we're like not super close, and we're super close for whatever varying reasons or circumstances in life. You hit your 40th birthday, it's like this, this awesome event, and then there's some other things that go on, and we're just kind of up and down. But throughout our
You don't want to tell that story? I feel like you should probably tell the story now.
I can't tell that story.
No?
But I can't tell that story.
No.
But I cannot tell that story. But what I can tell is...
You just made everyone's
I
imagination
know.
like...
Well, everyone's imagination is going to just have to, for the sake of for sacredness sake. Yeah, sacredness sake. It was a good birthday for you. It was your best birthday ever. For
It was.
a particular reason. So it was
It
a good
was.
thing. It was a
It
good
was.
thing. It was a bonding moment. It brought us back together. Brought you and I back together because of the circumstances. But throughout our life, I think from college and on into grad school, and then, and then even moving back just last year, or the year and a half, that we were there, you and I have had to have hard conversations. I can remember sitting on the porch swing and, at the house, and just some of the hard conversations we've had. And every single time, this is what I want to honor about you, and I think, I hope this can be said of me, is that there's teachability. Like we bring things up with each other in a way that it's not always comfortable, it's not always fun, but it's like we learn from each other, and we do it from a sense of we just want to get better. We just want to do relationship right. And it has been hard through the years because of varying family dynamics and things, but I would love for you to speak to that a little bit, just in terms of your perspective of, of that journeying together, where you hit those ups and downs. And because I know there's times you've prayed for me that you thought I was astray and I was never coming back. So
Here he is. We got him back, guys. We
but
got
it
him.
is true. There's times you were worried for me. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, I think every parent goes
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
stages in their life, seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for you and I think a lot of our journey, and I think I told you this a few weeks ago, I feel like I was very young when I had you and Jenna. And it's just,
I mean,
you
people
were both planned. I mean,
people are looking at you right now from YouTube, and they're going, "How are you old enough to be his mother?" That's what they're doing. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I was very young when I had you and Jenna, and you were both. I mean, I was married and you were planned. I had no unwanted, But
But for context, I mean, you had just turned 19 when you had me, right?
You were actually like maybe 2 weeks before I was 19.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
You were just getting ready to turn 19, and you were married at 17.
And I was married at 17, yes. So in some ways, I feel like we kind of grew up together. And I don't think that took away from, I mean, I feel like, I took, you were wanted, I loved you, I took care of you. I mean, it wasn't like you were not.
Yeah.
But again, going back, I was not raised in the church. Sorry, I don't know where to start with this. I was not raised in the church like you were and your family. We went to church, and I always believed. I always prayed, and I always knew the Lord. But it probably wasn't until you were grown and got out of your first college, and you started on your journey at NIAC, and we all got involved, in more contemporary churches, and that I feel like was when we grew. So I feel like we got to grow in the Lord together. And, I've learned much from you, and I feel like, we've just grown up in that. And
it's wild is even NIAC is because of you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have gone to NIAC. I wouldn't have gone to, Christian Missionary Alliance Church and been connected there if it weren't for your desire in it, and the conversations we had, and just even you introducing us to Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe and Narnia, and C.S. Lewis and all these stories, and like that was because growing up, I mean, I grew up in a nominal Christian family. Like we went to church, but we went to church, right? And it wasn't like you guys were heathens. It wasn't like there was like this sense of like, there wasn't just an ongoing, God wasn't at the forefront of all of our conversations. We prayed at night, we said our prayers, we did all those things, but it wasn't like this sense of, not until probably high school, early college, where I started to be discipled, going to CMA church, actually, Pastor Grumbine, right? Like, I mean, that's where I really started, I think,
it's where your journey
that's where my journey
fire.
started to grow. And then going to NIAC and experiencing that. And then that's kind of what accelerated, I think, everything, in terms of that season of life.
And again, getting into the blended family, I don't really recommend it if you don't have to. I don't.
Yeah, right.
I
right.
do not recommend that.
Don't suggest we do that.
No.
Yeah.
Don't aim for that and like hope for the redemption,
but for those that are in that situation now, because there's people that are going through it. Your children are your children. You love them. Don't put them in the middle of battles.
Yeah.
We always strived to get along as a blended family.
Yeah.
Don't put your children in a situation where they're having to make choices and cutting each other up and putting each other down. Honor your children's parents. And going back to Meemaw was amazing.
Yeah. And Meemaw, for context, was my dad's mom. So she's my paternal grandmother. And oh my word, she's in heaven today, just smiling down.
I know she is.
I can't wait for you to meet her.
Yeah, she was amazing, and she never, again, as a mother-in-law, she never was. She always loved me.
Wow.
And I know that Pap Snook always loved your dad. I know that.
Always.
I mean,
there was never, even after you and Dad split up and got a divorce, and you guys came into the blended families, everyone else comes in the picture. There was never a sense of you're not welcome here, ever. From Pap Snook to my dad, from Meemaw to you. Like, it was always this sense of, and then us, like, I prided myself on the three of us hanging out, like you and, me and my two dads. It was like, we got to hang out, and you guys were always helping and figuring out a way to work together. And I mean, I think you guys genuinely liked each other.
Yeah.
You guys genuinely liked each other. I think that was it wasn't you were faking it. You genuinely liked each other and did what you could for us.
Remember the cradle?
Yes.
Pap and Pap both you made it, and then Pap stained it, and they made this cradle for us for Landon, but then it became for all the kids. And it was handmade. I mean, just beautiful.
And Pappy Jack was part of that, wasn't he?
Yeah, your dad.
Yeah.
Your dad.
So when you talk about the connection father to father and so on, so like that was a project that I wanted my dad to. Him and I worked hand in hand to build that cradle, and then with your dad being a
Finishing
a
technician,
finishing
at a custom cabinetry company.
Right.
Yep. He knew all the paints and
Yep. So, just the light bulb came on, and it was like, no, we're going to each do part of the job. And if I'm not mistaken, we may have all signed
You did?
signed it
No, it's on the
underneath,
bottom,
so
yeah.
it's documented.
And it's ready to be
And-
passed to the next child who's the grandchild.
Right.
Are you saying what you're? Yes, he is.
So it's that earthly
Yeah.
element
Yep.
that sticks or speaks out in the,
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, you have these 3 generations, and I love the things that, I even think about my dad. The things that I cherish from my dad aren't possessions. It's like voicemails or his handwriting. Like whenever we would play card games, and he would write loser if I lost on top of it. I have his handwriting, and I save that, because it's like handwritten stuff that
Yes.
mattered, stuff that actually meant something, and passing that on. But let's go back to this, because this is where, at the Christian Missionary Alliance Church, right? Like this is where, and by the way, for those of you, Christian Missionary Alliance is like a denomination. A.B. Simpson, it's A.W. Tozer. So if you've ever heard of Tozer or read any Tozer, that's kind of this, and that's where it was. The seminary that I went to school at was there. And I'd love for you were that church experience. Yeah.
Well, it was a very small church.
Yep.
And I remember the pastor got your attention, and your faith grew deeper and deeper. And then with Mike going to Nyack, you got involved in the journey to Nyack. But I can remember you getting out of college, and starting a job at the youth correctional facility.
That's right. Yep.
And I can remember you very vividly. I can remember you calling me one day at work and saying, "Mom, they want me to start in January. What am I going to do?" And I don't know if you remember this conversation, but I said,
I don't
"Go.
actually.
You need to do this, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck in this job for the next 40 years, and you're going to have all the benefits and everything, and you're going to just go.
Go to
And
seminary.
And what was
Go in
wild about
January.
that, see, this is what was wild about that, is I think back on that moment, because I was making $35,000 a year right out of college with full benefits, and I think about $35,000 now, and I'm like, man, I'd be in poverty. But, it's $35,000 a year, full benefits, but I could have retired by the time I was like 50, right? Which is in like 5 years. I'd be getting ready to retire. But, and I'd probably be really miserable with my life. But it's like this sense of, because I can remember my dad's reaction was, "Oh my goodness, like you're gonna get out of that." Like the security mattered. The security was a big deal, and it was a big deal to him. And for me to, I look back on, I don't remember that conversation, but I remember, like, obviously we had that conversation, because I remember some of the moments where I'm getting ready to drive out there, and I remember you guys being a major anchor for me to do this. I do. I don't remember that specific conversation, but you guys as an anchor, kind of know how you have, it's like, we talk about the relational gospel, like your people, like what would my people do? You're in the back of my brain going, this is what my people would do. Like I'm like, you're there. That's what I mean by anchor in that season. And that was a pivotal moment. Like literally put the course of my entire career and leading into ministry and everything that I do today, because I chose not to go to comfort and security, but I chose to take a faith risk, and God's showing up. Every time I take a faith risk, God's always there going, "Oh, I got you. I got you. Don't you worry. I got you. I got you." And we see that over and over and over again throughout our family story. It's in our family story. And it's funny that it started there. I had no idea this was going to go, but it's just really cool to even talk about this,
And I can remember loading up the pickup truck and the trailers and hauling your stuff to New York, and then we did it again when you went to Virginia. So, I mean, it was always an adventure, and we got to meet a lot of really cool people along the journey, and
Yeah.
still have good memories.
Yep. Would you speak a little bit, if you would, to your own? You guys have been married for over 30 years. You guys are an anchor in your own church. You guys are, small group and just serving in your community. You lead a little Bible study locally. But I also know that, and I want to share this to those who are feeling like their story might not be able to be redeemed. And I know you've confided in me and shared with me, if you'd be willing to share this, just this sense of even what that has meant, like how stuff you've carried with you, the lie of the enemy, the lies of the enemy, and kind of how you've broken free from some of this, like, messages that the enemy would have put on you.
Well, I don't know. I'd say probably we've been in our current church for probably well over 20 years. And it was actually you that led us to that church, to our church. And I can remember for many, many years, we didn't have friends. We just did life, just the two of us. And I can remember you saying, Mom, you need to have friends.
I remember that.
You need to have friends.
I remember telling you that.
This is not healthy.
Yeah.
And so we did. We joined. And I think you told us to join a small group. So we did. And we participated in several small groups along the way. And we started to make friends. And about 5 years ago, we started our own small group. Now we've cut that off. Now we don't do that right now. But we did our own small group, and through the years, we've got a lot of friends now. We have very close friends that we do life with, and, going through the same seasons of life. People that and I would just encourage people to get involved. Do not feel like, because there was times, and I hear you, you talk about, blended families and stuff. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I went through this divorce, and, and you feel like the enemy's saying, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to do this. You've done this, and, and it took me a long time to realize, that's the enemy speaking.
Yeah.
And I am good enough. Now I hear God say, you are good enough. And you're mine. You belong to me. And there is redemption. And do not turn your back on that, because look at the woman at the well.
Yeah.
And it's like, if Jesus can forgive her and, just walk away, and, he's going to forgive you too. And so accept your redemption, accept it.
Mom, that was good. Yeah.
Well, it's
Wait.
wild, because
Wait.
before you even brought up the
That's
woman
really
at the well
powerful.
story, I didn't even think about that. It was like, that was what I was thinking, is like, you went from isolation to running, and now, like, I watch you run with your friends.
Guys,
I watch you run with your.
barely
We can't even keep up with you
schedule
guys.
to see you
Because you're
they're
going
like,
from thing
we'll
to
be
thing.
In
You've got
We'll be in
trips.
Florida. We're going on this trip. We're
Oh,
going on
yes.
this trip.
It's true.
I mean,
so,
it's true.
but it's like, you went from, and I think, I didn't even think about this, so you brought up the woman at the well. She went from pure isolation, going to the well at the time of day when no one else would go
to hide.
to hide, because she lived in hiding.
Yeah.
And she has this interaction with Jesus, and the next thing you know, he doesn't condemn her. He enters into her story, enters into her world, and then just says, now go and sin no more. And she's running into the public square, to the place that she was trying to avoid to begin with, to share, I got to tell you about this. I got to tell you. And it's like, I was thinking about that of your life. before you even mentioned that story. So it's really cool to see like that transformation. Yeah. Just even and just that voice of, we talk about this, like, you know, there's 4 different voices. One of those voices is the voice of the enemy. And if you're feeling shame or condemnation, that's the accuser. That's the enemy. That's not, the Lord would never speak condemnation. There's no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus. And so to see you guys live in that story is just really, really cool, because you guys offer so much. And I was in a conversation with some dear friends who we will have on the podcast next week. We were talking about you, Pap, and we were talking about, just what a gem of a human you are, you know? And I'm going to share that with my mom so that she realizes what a gem of a human you are. And
Listen to him.
No, you don't even. The funny thing is, you two have one of the purest, sweetest marriages.
It is
like
true. Yeah.
you were just, you're so beautifully fit for one another, and you're just true. Like your marriage is true, and she knows exactly who he is.
Yeah.
Joshua. And I think it's a beautiful model actually for kids, like our kids even, to watch, to see this even an older generation just delighting in one another and honoring one another. And like, you both think you're the bee's knees. Like, it's so great. Like, really though, I mean, that's actually kind of rare in an old, they're picking at each other and nitpicky and just kind of grumpy with one another. And like, that is not,
the way you honor him is just like,
and vice versa. Yeah. My gosh. Like, they just truly delight in one another, and it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah. So, we were talking about it, and, so we had this conversation, and it was weird for many, many years. And I think this is because of, and I'm sharing this with those of you who are in blended families, you're kind of, figuring out how to navigate it well. And I think we've fumbled our way through it, for many, many years. And, one of the things I go to the Lord on, and I was sharing this with you earlier, is I'll ask him, like, search me and know me, Lord. Like, tell me if there's anything within me that I need to be paying attention to. What's the work that we're doing right now? Like, Lord, show me the work that we're doing as we partner together. And, fear and things like that, if I'm, not trusting in him enough or things like that. And I'll also pay attention to, I have this call with a friend who I'm talking to this afternoon as well, where we kind of, touch base from time to time on accountability and how we're, what do we have to confess to each other? And it's gotten, because I know that I'm having those conversations, not just with my friend, but also with the Lord, it's like I'm highly attuned to how I speak about people, how I speak of others, and, whether it's about somebody, with somebody, how I come across those types of things. It's like the Spirit's really given me sensitivity to some of this. And the one thing that would come up from time to time, because we don't see each other often, and it's not often, even when I do, it's not like I'm introducing you to somebody, but I would always introduce you as stepdad. It'd be like, this is my stepdad. Yeah. And it just was the thing that always came up as weird to me. I was talking to Luke about this, my friend, and I was like, man, I just don't like that word. It just, it doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel right about who you are in my life, because you have fathered me. And and so I'm talking with them, and we're like all in tears, and he's like, man, you need to tell them this. And I was like, I will. And I know I need to. But we were talking about it a little bit as it relates to why did I always, and I think it was because I didn't want to, make sense that I went into the counseling field, because after the divorce, I was like, well, I chose to go every other week. I wanted to be with my dad a week, my mom a week, my dad a week, because I didn't want to disappoint anybody. And I mean, I look back on that, I needed therapy for the codependency of trying to make sure everybody was good. And then once I had therapy, then I didn't want to really counsel anybody anymore. But it's like, oh, I don't want to take care of your stuff anymore. That's your stuff.
You're like, I'm good now.
You deal with that.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah. But no, I'm just kidding. Actually, mercy giving is my greatest spiritual gift. But so we had this conversation where I'm like, I'm never going to use that word again. From now on, I'm introducing you as dad. And I think that my dad is sitting in heaven today cheering us on, being like, yes, yes. And so I would just love for you to also share kind of because what you said to me in that conversation was so powerful and important. Because I just think there's just a respect, and I want to honor that. And I think it was just awesome for even how you were approaching that conversation.
Yeah, it's it was the very same issue is something I've gone through over the years, is because sometimes, when I would say to friends or family, we're going down to my stepson's and his wife's, and then other times I realized that I would just say, well, we're going down to my son's. So it bothered me, and so we came into this conversation a little while ago, just an hour or so ago, and we were talking about this. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted to continue to refer to Josh as my stepson is because I had this feeling where I didn't really know how he felt about it, but I didn't want to approach Josh and make him feel like, well, I'm asserting myself in here. I don't want to push myself into this title, because I don't want Josh's dad to be less.
And it was so, because I had never thought of it from your perspective before. Like, we're all self-focused and we all think of it from our angle. Right. And it felt so weird for me, and I didn't like it. And so then I take that insecurity and I carry that insecurity that I didn't have enough, my blinders were on to not see it from your perspective either. And I just want to make sure that I think out of this conversation, the thing that I have loved so much about our relationship is that we don't let things, and I feel like this has kind of, the timing, God's timing is always perfect. And I wish in many ways we could have even had that conversation years ago so that we didn't have to carry it so long and feel weird about it. Right. But I feel like the thing that we do well and that I just really love about our relationship is that we are able to talk. Mm-hmm. One of the keys of dysfunction is nobody talks. Nobody shares the real issues. Right.
You avoid it.
it. And I feel like what I love is I feel like we can have these conversations, and whether they're the hard, the good, whatever it is, and we always come out of it on the other side in a way where we're fighting for each other and we're seeing things within ourselves. It's like, I'm so grateful, and thank you for showing me that. And let's move forward this way. And, we've had that conversation, whether it's with grandkids and, relationships with the grandkids or relationships between us or whatever. And I just really want to encourage everybody listening, like that openness is what keeps things healthy and thriving and good and beautiful. And so thank you.
And just to say, just to add, that's literally where things fester, is in the distance, in absence, in avoidance. And I grew up thinking avoiding was like keeping the peace. Like sweeping it under the rug meant well done. Don't explode that bomb. Just keep going and keep going. And I still fight that, where I prefer, if we don't have to bring it, if we can just sort of avoid it and just go on. But man, it doesn't feel good on the inside. Everyone's very aware that there is an elephant in the room, and you feel it, and you feel that discord. And it's funny because you're talking about what you call, I've always said mom and pap, and even thinking as a daughter-in-law, that calling you mom, whereas, and how that was actually a very natural it didn't replace my mom, but it was an addition to, and you were my mom and pap. But it was funny, it was mom and pap. And but I've always referred to you as Josh's parents together. Like, oh, that's Josh's parents. There's something about the strength of your union that has, like, there's a unity, and there is that's what he keeps calling you, an anchor. And I think that's the word to say, like, it's an anchor for our kids. It's an anchor for us. It's an anchor in your community. You're an anchor in our family. And I just want to honor you both with that. Like, thank you. Even amidst the storm and the storm of condemnation, I would say, like voices that are speaking in saying somehow you're less than for making this one particular decision. And I know there's a lot of weight on that. And yet look at the redemption. Look at what we've all walked through. And truly even for Josh, like, I don't know that, Josh, you would be doing what you're doing had you not walked that journey. Right. No, I don't think he'd care. Yeah. I don't think he'd care about the family the way he cares about family. I don't think he'd care about marriage the way he cares about marriage.
That's very true.
Like, it's given him this inner fire because he knows both sides of the coin and he knows how much it matters. And so thank you. Yeah. Thank you both.
Yes. And I just have to say too, you make life easy too. I mean, I feel like we are just, and I do not like the recognition of daughter-in-law or son-in-law.
I know.
Like,
it's like step. It's like the same word where it's like you're kind of
it's kind of like an artificial.
Yeah. You're an artificial limb daughter, that got added in. We're not sure how we feel about you, but whatever.
So I like when we say, this is my daughter in love, because that's what
I know. You've always said that. And I love you.
I love you too.
And
you've made it easy.
I don't know that's always true, but you've made me feel like that from the beginning. No, okay, no, that's not true. Let me say that. The first time I met you, I was terrified. Remember the first time when we were dating, the first time I met you and Josh was like, my mom, like, you're going to have to, like, win her over. I was like, okay, best self. What do I say? And I remember being like, okay, this is going to be hard. And so that was the first time I remember, and that could have been your very poor prepping of me.
Probably was.
Like, you was sheer terror, actually. And I was like, oh, crap. I'm coming in, and I have
probably goes back to your 40th birthday. And that's
See, that's why I think you should tell it, but whatever. Yeah. I'm here because of it, so happy 40th to you, Mom. Yes. That was a great day. But I think that was the only time that I remember being like, I don't know what she thinks of me. But after that, I think after you realized this
was pretty cool, that you were the bee's knees.
I mean, thanks. But after that, I feel like it was like you took me in as daughter, and you always have. And I thank you for that.
Well,
I love you.
I hope that today's episode brought you hope. I hope it does bring you hope, no matter what season of life you're in, whether you are, and I think that's just the cool part about this episode, is that whether you are married, you're in a blended family, nuclear family, or you're grandparents, I hope that this, if you've listened to this, pass this on to your grandparents or to your parents, the grandparents of your kids, because just even that multi-generational blessing and how to have conversation across the generations for the sake of the generations that come after us. This is what's so beautiful about these types of conversations. It's what I honor in my parents. And so, Mom and Dad, thank you so much. I love you both so much. And until next week, we pray and hope that you find your way.